In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the trim modify command in Autodesk Inventor. So here I have open a 2D sketch, and our modify commands can be found in the sketch tab in the modify panel on our ribbon, and the trim button is the second one from the left at the top here. It's the one with the pair of scissors. So if you hold your mouse over it, you get a little preview about what it's going to do, and we're going to activate it just by left clicking on it. Now there's no pop-up that comes up for the trim button. Instead, you'll just notice on your mouse you've got a little plus button beside it. And if you read in the bottom left corner of your screen where your command prompt is, it'll say select portion of the curve to trim, or press and hold Control key. So what we're going to do is choose what we want to trim. So what does trim do? Trim removes parts of your sketch that's intersecting other parts of your sketch. So if you want to just clean up your sketch by removing some lines that you don't want. So for example, in here, if I want this middle rectangle to be fully empty without any lines in it, but I want to keep the lines between my two rectangles right up here, I'm going to use trim to get rid of everything in the middle without having to delete my entire line. So with the trim activated, all you do is you hover over the part of the line you want to delete. You'll notice it shows up in a dashed line. So it's sort of a dashed lime green and gray line. And you just left click. And Inventor will split that line. It'll trim it out, and it trims it between the connecting geometry, which in this case is the top and bottom line of this rectangle, but it leaves everything that's on the other side of that geometry. So let's keep doing that. So for this next one, notice that this next one is intersecting at the top of my rectangle right here, and it's intersecting this line right here. So if I trim this piece out, notice what it does. I get the top portion just like before where it's between the two rectangles, but this bottom one, because it was intersecting this other angled line, it did not trim it right to my rectangle here. So trim doesn't just get rid of the geometry between the rectangles, it'll get rid of the geometry between whatever two parts of the sketch it's touching. So in this case, it touched from here to here. To get rid of this, I would have to trim it right here to get rid of it from this rectangle to this line. So I'll do that. There we go. And then this last line, same thing. It's touching. If we start here, it's touching from this rectangle and nothing until it hits this rectangle. So when I trim right here, the part that shows up dashed is everything between these two rectangles. So you left click and it'll trim that out. When you're done, you just right click and choose OK to close that command. It's no longer blue at the top of my screen. And I've officially here trimmed up my two rectangles so that my angled lines are no longer intersecting with my center rectangle there. So the trim button is a really handy one for cleaning up a sketch when you don't want to actually delete your entire line. You just want to remove a portion of your line. You can use the trim button to remove that portion so that you get your sketch looking the way you want it to.